For more awesome content, head to ystech.org, link in the description. Have you ever just put a PC together and it doesn't work? Or have you tried to turn on your computer with no post? Today, I've got probably one of the most jankiest PCs I've put together in a long time. Let's see how I put it together and how I messed things up big time. I needed to build a PC for when I was going on holiday, so I packed all the parts I needed into this blue box. Power supply, motherboard, CPU, and everything else I needed to build a PC. Brought it down to the place I was staying at, and unloaded everything on my desk to start building. But before I wanted to build, I needed to think of a way to fashion a makeshift PC case. I had 3 ideas. First off, I tried placing it in a box. This came with some issues on placement for the USB ports and airflow within the box. I ended up canning this idea because practically it would have been a little annoying to do. Second idea was to make a cardboard case, like I cut it out and put it together myself. I started cutting out cardboard with this one, but I had a major problem that I ran into when I was putting it together. I wanted to glue the pieces together, however the glue that I had was all old and dried up, so I had nothing to put it together with. Lastly was my idea to just use no case. You could call it an open test bench sitting on top of the motherboard's box. I assembled everything together onto the Asus B350M-A motherboard, 16 gigs of RAM, the 5600 and cooler for the CPU, the graphics card being a 980 Ti, a 500GB Samsung 860 EVO, a WD Blue 250GB hard drive, and power supply connectors to the motherboard. Lastly were the front panel connectors, which I had taken off another spare case that I had to make it easy to turn this PC on and off. You can see here I was pretty prepared for putting this PC together. All ready to go. Plugged in a monitor, double checked everything was plugged in properly, and 3, 2, 1, the fans began to spin up on the PC, looking good. Sometimes it takes a little while for a PC to post, but I waited, and nothing. I turned it off, and did all the normal troubleshooting steps. I tried to turn it back on. I unplugged it from the wall socket and turned it off from the power supply. Then I checked is everything plugged in properly, trying 1 stick of RAM at a time after, and lastly I tried removing the CMOS battery. The PC still wasn't turning on, and I just realized what I did. I made the biggest mistake that I could have. I was using a B350 motherboard and a Ryzen 5 5600. But this B350 motherboard was not updated to the latest BIOS and can only go up to a max of a Ryzen 3000 processor. This is why everything was spinning up. Lights were turning on, but the motherboard was unable to communicate with the CPU, although it was technically compatible at least on the latest BIOS. Only problem here is that I needed a Ryzen 1000, 2000 or 3000 series CPU to update to the latest BIOS for this motherboard for the Ryzen 5 5600 to work. Unfortunately, I didn't have one on me while I was on holiday to update to the latest BIOS. Key thing here is that always make sure that your CPU will be compatible with your motherboard, especially with older AM4 motherboards and newer Ryzen CPUs. Not all motherboard BIOSes will be updated to work with your chosen CPU. This is highly important if you're building secondhand or even upgrading compared to building brand new. It's a pretty simple fix if you have a CPU on hand you can update your BIOS with, or even if your motherboard has an easy flash utility button where you don't need a CPU. But it is something important to keep in mind. When I updated the BIOS when I got back home, the motherboard was working fine with the 5600, no problems, it booted and I was able to use the PC as normal. That about sums up the video. Thanks for watching. Check out ystech.org for some more awesome technology content. But other than that, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.